Thanks for your patience. We're about to get started here. And again, just thank you for attending. A quick note, everybody that is attending or registered will receive a recording of this session. So be sure to tell your friends. But with that, let's go ahead and get started. So today I'm really excited about the webinar. You know, our title, Amazing Customer Service the Startup Way. Yes, we're talking about a startup, but the more I think about this, you know, approaching something the startup way can mean many things. And I think for every business, they could benefit from approaching business the startup way. And by that I mean, you know, a startup needs to fight for every customer. A startup needs to think about every single dollar they spend and where that dollar goes. A startup needs to think about how it should grow and how it can differentiate itself in the marketplace. So whether you are actually a startup or whether you're, you know, a bigger company, you need to think about these things as well. And I think every company that's serious about customer service, you know, should be really maniacal about this. So let's kick it off here. My name is Elvis Greer. I'm a manager of product marketing here at Desk.com. And before we get started, I have to give you the obligatory and very well-known Salesforce Safe Harbor Statement, which states that during our conversation today, we may talk about some forward-looking technology or some technologies that aren't currently available. And I ask that you would just base all of your purchasing decisions on currently available technology, nothing that I would talk about in the future. So connect with us. You're connecting with me right now, obviously, but you can also connect with us by tweeting us at Desk and hashtag CustServeWins. After this presentation, there's going to be a Q&A. It's going to give you guys an opportunity to ask any questions. And finally, I want to reiterate that there is going to be a link to this recorded session after we get done here. So let's proceed. So what I want to do, I want to really quickly just say how excited I am to with our guest today. It's Ari Radetzky. He is the VP of Customer Experience for Club W. Not only is he going to introduce himself, but he's going to tell you a lot about Club W, what it is, what they do, what's been going on, as well as, you know, how they do customer service. What does customer experience mean? So I hope you guys get as much from this conversation as I do. And so with that, Ari, please tell us, you know, a little bit about yourself.
Thank you for the introduction, Elvis. I really appreciate that. On the first slide where you had the computers up and everything, I noticed there was not a bottle or a glass of wine, so we'll have to fix that. So I'm the VP of Customer Experience over at Club W. Club W started 3 years ago, and we'll talk a little bit more about what Club W does, but I want to talk first about what customer experience means to us. For us, customer experience means having a holistic view of the entire company to ensure that every step of the way we're delighting our members and the people that are receiving our wines. So sometimes that means that I'm working with the product team and letting them understand that, hey, our members are calling in a lot and they're saying, we want more sweet wines, or we really enjoyed that Cabernet. Do you think you can get more of it? Sometimes I'll be working with the logistics team, figuring out, okay, we've got a problem with delivery, or there's some way that we can make the delivery experience more delightful, simply by contacting members sooner when something goes wrong. And then, of course, as is fitting for being involved with the customer service, or what we call member services side of the equation, it's making sure that when our customers reach out to us for any reason, that we're not just kind of getting by and answering the question. We're not looking at customer service as a way to solve problems for people, looking at customer service as a way to delight them. We've got them on the phone. We've got them on a chat. We're communicating with them by email. That's invaluable for us, and making sure that our members to do things on their own and to make their own decisions, and as long as they're using good judgment, we'll stand behind that, is really important with us, for us. But we just want to make sure that Club W is really passionate about what we do. I mean, we really feel like we're revolutionizing what we want is, and we want passion to come across, and everybody who speaks with us at any juncture whether it's by email or whether it's by phone or chat. And of course, I'm just startup forum at that dog in the office. So thanks for listening to that little introduction about what we do and how we think about customer service.
Great, thanks, Ari. So yeah, let's dive into a little bit more about like what is Club W for those that don't know, and kind of tell us what differentiates Club W from every other business that's doing something similar or in the same space.
And I mean, that's part of the answer is we don't really feel like anybody's doing the exact same thing in the exact same space, but we're globally integrated winery. And so what that means is that we take we take wine from grape to glass. So we are finding grapes. We're working with farmers. We're working with growers. We're working with vineyards, really all around the world. And there was a slight pivot about a year ago. We used to be a third-party marketplace where we were working with other people's wines, and we realized that to do things the right way, to do things the way that we really want to do them, that we would have to pivot and we would have to start working directly with the grapes and start working directly with the growers to produce really exceptional product that you're not going to see anywhere else. So by saying that you're not going to see anywhere else, we're working with winemakers, but we're also working with people that are involved in the arts or people that are involved in cooking communities. So one example is the winner of, I think it was season 6 Top Chef, is Michael Voltaggio. He was really passionate about orange wine. Orange wine is white wine made in a specific way that it turns out orange, and it's something that he's really passionate about. No other winemaker was going to, or no other wine company was going to do that with him, or at least not at a really high price point. But because of the way we work, we were able to produce that with him. We just had a partnership with Jonathan Simkai, who's a fashion designer, and we were able to produce a wine for him that he was pouring at New York Fashion Week. So there's some really cool things that we can do as a vertically integrated global winery that other people can't do, and it's making us the fastest growing winery in history. But the other thing that we're really passionate about, outside of all the glitz and glamour, and outside of, producing a really amazing product, we really believe that that product is only as good as the environment. I mean, we focus on wine in the same way that a lot of restaurants are now focusing on food, the concept of farm to table. We focus on grape to glass, but grape to glass only works if the planet is healthy, if the environment is doing well, and that's kind of the other part of our mission here. I mean, by being fully vertically integrated, the wines that we produce, we can produce the exact same wine as most other wineries at a 50% reduction, especially with international, at a 50% reduction in carbon footprint, just by being more efficient in the way that we're moving the wine around, and by making sure that once the wine is produced, we're not moving it to distributors, and from distributors to liquor stores, and from liquor stores to consumers' homes. I mean, we're really going from the vineyard to bottling to consumers' home, in one fell swoop. Now, sometimes that process will be releasing a wine in April that's been 16 months in the making. That's what it means to work with a natural product. So that's another way that we're different than the traditional wine club. Traditional wine clubs, you'll sign up and you'll get 2 reds and 1 white, and you'll be getting 2 reds and 1 white for the rest of your life. At Club W, we allow people to log in. We allow people to customize the wines to their palate as well as their lifestyle. So you can log in and say, this month I want 3 whites, next month I want 3 reds. But that makes for a great customer experience. That means we do things like carry inventory. We have real expenses that other wine clubs and wineries simply don't have, because we're dealing in lots and lots of grapes from all around the world. But in the end, we think that the amazing customer experience that delivers via subscription model is going to fundamentally change the way people think about buying wine.
Great. Yeah, and just to clarify, and I think, Ari, something that our guests might be interested in is like when you and I were talking, something that I was a bit surprised by. So even when you broaden your scope a little bit to go how you compare to other wine clubs, when you were telling me about basically distribution for all wine across the United States is handled by very few distributors, and that means that the quality or the types of wine that we seek in our grocery stores is actually quite limited, and the quality is maybe quite inferior to what we would, otherwise think, right, when we're going to a store. So can you spend like maybe 30 seconds and talk a little bit about that and how much more quality comes through when you're able to partner directly with these wineries and give these varietals directly to your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's two things that are taking place. Number one, you walk into wherever you're buying wine and you see a dizzying array of labels. I mean, 90% of the wines produced in the United States are produced by 3 companies. So there's lots of different labels, but behind all those labels are a lot of the same people. And when you're producing wine at a huge scale, and every year you're, I'm going to pick on Kendall Jackson. Every year you have a bottle of Kendall Jackson that tastes the same year in, year out. Wine is a natural product. Your vintages are going to change year to year, and to have a product that changes or that tastes the same every year means that there are things that are being done in the winemaking process that are winemaking, but it's a little bit more like making soda, or maybe you're mixing a lot of different wines from a lot of different places to make it taste the same for a lot of different grapes. But then the other part of the model that's just completely broken, I mean, the thing that everybody knows is Uber, right? Uber has taken out they connect you directly to the driver. And it's the same with the winemaker. The traditional system is a 3-tier system where there's a winemaker, and that winemaker makes their wine, and then they find a distributor to sell their wine, and then that distributor sells that wine to the liquor store, and then at the liquor store or at the grocery store, the clerk helps sell that to the consumer. And in addition to all the markup that comes along with that, which means that people have to make money at every step of the way, and by cutting that out, we can produce the same bottle and put a lot more into the grapes and a lot less into the marketing and all those layers of distribution. But the other thing that's lost is the story. Winemakers are really passionate people, and when they have to tell their story that old, dead way, it's like a game of telephone. By the time you hear about the wine, what you're hearing is some kind of garbled version of what really inspired them to make the wine in the first place.
Cool, thanks. So just for the folks on the phone, I know there's been a few questions. We're definitely going to get to Q&A. I know this is such a fascinating subject, and I know so many people, are, lovers of wine, so I'm really glad for the passion. Again, we'll get to Q&A, I promise, so hang tight. And then so to transition, Ari, and I think, again, for the folks on the line here, if you can't tell, Ari is extremely passionate and extremely knowledgeable about what he does. And I think as we transition from, what Club W is as a business, how it differentiates itself, I think you're going to see a very, very clear correlation between that passion for what he does and how he handles the business with all of their partners, and see how that translates into his customers. And while there may be a subtle nuance throughout this entire conversation, I really want you guys to know that are interested in how do you do amazing customer service, the startup way is, the first key is to be passionate about what you do. Even if you're not extremely passionate about the exact thing you're working on, because we can't all work with wine every day, but you should certainly be passionate about working with people and working towards making that experience amazing, right? Because something we all have in common, regardless of what we do, is that we're all customers. And we all know what it feels like to have a bad customer experience versus a good customer experience. So I hope that's coming across. Ari, I just want to make sure that was clear for everybody. And then so with that, let's go ahead and transition to, what does customer experience mean to Club W? I know it encompasses customer service, but, based on our conversations, I know that this experience is so much more than that. So please take a few minutes, tell us about customer experience, and maybe give us a real example as well to kind of bring it home.
I mean, there are a couple of different ways, but yeah, number one, that passion is invaluable. I mean, we really sit down and talk with our agents about we are revolutionizing the way the wine industry works, and that gives people a sense of mission and a sense of purpose. But it also, I mean, we're really trying to change consumer behavior. Everybody talks about Zappos as this model of customer service, and we look at them certainly that way, but we also look at them as a company that really changed customer behavior. Before they came around, nobody would think about buying shoes online. I have to try them on. I have to see them. I have to make sure that they're just right. And now nobody thinks twice about buying shoes online, and we're trying to make it the same way. So part of that is our satisfaction guarantee. You buy a bottle of wine from us, you call in and you say you didn't like that bottle. And, even people sometimes will tell us that in passing. They'll send us an email and say, hey, I really like 2 of the bottles. One of them was so-so. We'll automatically just reach out and say, here's credit for that bottle of wine, because we know that to change customers' behavior, we have to make this as frictionless as possible, but we also really do want people to understand that wine is about discovery. And so we want people, part of our mission is to have them understand that if I get a bottle of wine, if I try something new, thanks to Club W, and I don't like it, I'm not going to pay for it. But a more tangible example of things that we can do to delight the customer, I mean, it's a simple thing that, it took us 6 months to kind of figure out is, we were getting packages back at our warehouse that had been damaged. And finally it occurred to us, hey, maybe somewhere in the FedEx API, maybe when packages get damaged and that hits the FedEx system, we could actually find out about that, at that point instead of having to wait for the package to come all the way back to our warehouse. And we did a little digging and we found out that, yeah, we could integrate with the FedEx API. And so now what we do is the minute that FedEx reports that a package is damaged, we create a ticket in Desk, and that Desk ticket prompts the agent to just go ahead and reship the package. We're not going to wait to get it back. We're not going to wait to, find out anything about why it was damaged or if we're going to get refunded for it. We just want to make sure that our members are getting their wine as quickly as possible, and if there's any delays, any snags, that they're going to get it right away. And that is true with other returns too. If something's not right for whatever reason and somebody has to return bottles to us, and generally that's not the case because, again, we have the satisfaction guarantee, but we're just going to refund their money. I mean, we're not Amazon. Amazon's customer service model to me seems a little unfair, only because every time I call them, there's a problem. They're like, here, take it for free. We're a startup, and going back to those values that you talked about, being careful with every dollar. One of our core values is zero waste. I mean, we really want to be smart with the money we have because, we realize that every dollar that we save, that we can then reinvest that in the product, and if our product is amazing, people will stick around forever. But we don't have the luxury of just kind of throwing money at a problem, but we are always going to err on the side of the customer. It's what you were talking about, Elvis, that feeling of we've all been a customer, and we all know the difference. I mean, it's I know good customer service when I feel it. I know good customer service when I experience it, and that's one of the things that we do during our training. We have a 3-week training with our members, our agents. And we ask them, give us some good examples of really great customer service. And everybody talks about how that made them feel more than anything else.
Yeah, really, really good points there. And I think I want to highlight too, and summarize and tell me what your thoughts are on this. But so, I mean, in hearing you and what I understand about customer service and how you can provide great customer service and talking to our customers all the time, it's when you're providing this service, I think you have to accept that, believe it or not, despite what we see on internet forums or on social networks, I mean, there are a few squeaky wheels out there, but people in general are pretty rational beings. So when they're displeased with something, it's probably for a pretty good reason. And I think, to your point, Ari, is that when you have that decision to say, well, this makes sense that this person is dissatisfied because there's so many wines, wine is about discovery, we could save $1 and say, you know what, sorry, you didn't like that bottle, but buy another one, hopefully you like the next one better. Or you can do the right thing, which, again, is costing you a little bit more money, but looking mid to long term, you're thinking about every single customer, what's the total value of that customer over, the lifespan. And I think by, again, accepting that people are rational for the most part, giving people the benefit of the doubt that not everyone is out there, especially a service like yours where it's so intentional. It's somebody that is obviously very interested in having a consistent supply of wine. They want to try new wines, but they actually want someone to help them out so that they don't have to go through maybe 4, 5, 6 months of bad wine to discover what they like. And so, all that being said, I think it really ties into, kind of the things that you said. And I'd love to hear your comments to that. And I'd also love for you to take 1 minute or less to talk about the people that pay you for the subscription service aren't your only customers, right? You have a lot of constituents that matter to your business. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, when people reach out and something isn't going right, they didn't like the bottle, we see that as an opportunity to be a win because, number one, we can talk to them about the satisfaction guarantee, and we can say, you know what, it's all about discovering new wines, just like you were saying. And we don't say this, but intentionally we know that it's the right thing to do, but it's just like what we do with the environment. It's the right thing to do, but it's also great for the business. Our net lifetime value is our number one metric here. And net lifetime value is just a function of people being happy with our service. The happier they are, the more the content they are, the longer they stick around. So when they reach out and say that we didn't like the wine, it's not only an opportunity to talk to them about the satisfaction guarantee, but it's a way to educate them and say, Club W is all about discovery. If you rate your wines, then we'll be better able to make suggestions, and those suggestions will be more in tune with your palate. So, it's a great opportunity for us to do that. But as far as the other constituents that we have, we have our winemaking partners. We have people who do the videos. Every wine that we have, we shoot a video for. So we have people that are doing our videos. And we're also expanding into to restaurants. So, you won't just see our wines delivered to consumers. We'll also start working directly with restaurants. And, Desk is going to be a part of all that. So that we make sure that when there are issues, we can use Desk as a way to surface issues. So those issues don't surface if only part of our customer base is being served by it. So, we're really going to look to have everything centralized in one place.
Awesome. Thanks, Ari. So yeah, you kind of hit on your training and a little bit more about your agent experience. So let's dig a little bit deeper and let's talk about how Club W and how your team organizes itself. And so if you could talk about, let's start with say how you guys are organized. Again, you can see here the number of cases, but talk a little bit about that whole experience from an organizational standpoint and a process standpoint, and then tell us how that ties into Desk. Obviously we'll get more to that later and what you guys did before, but just tell us kind of like what you guys, do with the technology and kind of how that helps your day-to-day. But you can start at a very high level.
So we have 16 agents, and we have them divided into really 4 teams. We have a retention team, so because we are a subscription model, we have people that are specifically designed to work with or trained to work with people who want to leave the service. But then we're divided by channel, so we have a phone group, we have a chat group, and we have an email group. And the reason that we divided it that way is that was the only way for us to have people own their own metrics. When hold times are getting really long and we're unhappy with the amount of time that people have been holding on the phone, if we can't go to a group of 4 people and say, what's going on with phone times? And again, that's not confrontational. That's, hey, tell us, if we have too many calls, then maybe we need to add somebody to your team. Maybe we need to think about changing the hours of our support. Maybe we need to think about adding a new article to the knowledge base if everybody's calling about this same thing. But we had to divide by channel so that we could have some accountability to those metrics. And then after that, we divide by inquiry type. So, are they calling about a shipping problem? Are they calling about gifts? Are they calling about a billing question? Are they calling to cancel? And so by dividing that way, we can then see where are the bulk of our calls coming in terms of particular subject matters. And, again, that's an opportunity for us to learn something. The director of logistics reached out to me just yesterday and said, hey, I look at the dashboard and I see that you had a higher number of calls around shipping. There's something going on with shipping that you can see from your end. And then we use labels. So labels are a way for us, again, going back to logistics, we'll have a label for improper product. If somebody receives not all the bottles that they should have, we'll put a label on it. We'll run a report and say to logistics, here's how many boxes went out that didn't have the exact bottles that they should have. And, that's a way for them to kind of hold their team accountable and say, okay, we can do better. That's another one of our core values. We always feel like we can do better.
Great. So I think that's a good segue into, what you guys did before Desk. So tell us, for the people on the phone, what did you do before Desk? I think the logo is pretty obvious here, but how did that work out for you, and kind of what does technology do to change that experience for you guys?
It didn't work. It was a terrible experience for everybody. We were sending emails into a Gmail account, and people would get back to it, and there was no clear understanding of when something had been resolved, and there were no labels, there were no channels. And, frankly, I think that everybody agrees that email is probably the least satisfactory way because it involves a lot of back and forth. In customer service, one of the metrics that people look at a lot is first contact resolution. You know, how quickly was this resolved on the first contact? Email, by its very nature, doesn't lend itself to that, but chat and phone sure do. So by being integrated in Desk, we're able to handle it all in one place. And the other nice thing is that we've got, you know, Facebook and Twitter and our social media accounts showing up there. And then beyond that, we're working on being one of the first partners to launch with Delighted. So Delighted is an NPS monitoring service, and they're going to create a plugin that will allow us to see NPS feedback in Desk as well, so we can take action on that.
Cool. And yeah, for those guys on the phone that maybe just starting, NPS is Net Promoter Score, and it's just one way. Customer satisfaction rating is another, but it's basically how you keep account on how well your service is running in the eyes of your customers. And so I just want to clarify that, Ari. And that's, again, so you talk about, you know, all channels coming into one place, talking about working with third party, and I think that works really nicely. So for our next, you know, slide here, you talk a lot about, in our conversations, about all-in-one customer support. And so I would love for you to say what that is in your own words, but also definitely explain to our audience about the integration piece, and not only the integration piece from your end, but how, you know, kind of how Desk enables that integration and kind of why that matters.
Well, I mean, you know, above all, I would say no matter what you do, do something. I mean, if you don't have a system in place, we chose Desk, and I can talk about why we chose Desk, but get a system in place because you just can't do it any other way. The reason that we chose Desk is because there was the most flexibility to kind of have a central point of contact, which is Desk, but then to bring our own partners for the channels that we wanted. So, you know, any all-in-one product that tells you they can do everything, and they can provide chat, and they can provide phone, and they can provide email, and it's all going to be great and fantastic, we've just found that that wasn't the case. So we work with Desk as the central starting point, and there were features that we needed that the basic out-of-the-box Desk product is great for a starting place. There are features that we wanted that we weren't able to get from that. So one example is queuing in chat. When people log in and they say, I want to chat with one of your agents, and we have every agent able to receive 3 chats. Okay, what happens when all the agents have 3 chats? So we went out and found a partner, SnapEngage, who has queuing enabled in their chat client, and that allows us to give the customer the choice, hey, do I want to wait for a chat agent for a minute or two? And chat is super efficient. I mean, in terms of being a great channel for us to support our members, we find that people really like chat. And so it was really valuable for us to have chat queuing. And for a while, we turned it off, and we saw our call volume just skyrocket. So we use SnapEngage for chat, and we use TalkDesk. That's one of our partners that we're working with to do a little bit more than the standard Desk tool can do for phone calls. But, you know, the ability to kind of have the option to choose Desk all-in-one solution, but also to bring our own providers for the things that we wanted to do differently, that's a total win.
Really good points. And again, I think hopefully this will be beneficial for the folks on the phone. And Ari, something that you brought up reminded me, you know, when you turn chat off, you saw the number of telephone calls skyrocket. And I want to say for the folks on the phone that are kind of deciding how to manage customer service, whether it's in your own position or whether it's more in an organization, for a smaller company that's growing quickly, case deflection is the #1 thing you should be thinking about, right? And Ari mentioned it. It's one thing to turn off one channel and you see an increase in volume in another, but another really helpful thing you can think about is a help center, right? And Ari, I'm sure you can agree with this, but people love help centers because it gives your customers a place to go where they can answer their own questions. So that has 2 great reasons why it's so beneficial. One, it makes sure that your agents are handling more important questions, as, you know, for example, my shipment was due yesterday, it's not here, where is it? As opposed to, I forgot my password, how do I reset my password? So when your resources are limited, a help center can really be effective in deflecting a lot of those easy to answer questions. And psychologically, people like to answer their own questions. So if you're an individual and you go on, even everybody on the call knows as a customer, if you had the ability to answer every Comcast or Time Warner question you could without having to go through the nightmare of calling, you would, right? You just know, but that experience is not good. It's not very easy to go online and help yourself. But if you do provide that experience, an experience that very clearly lays out how you can help yourself, I promise you, you're going to have happier customers, and your agents are going to be more enabled to, tackle those really important questions. Anything to add to that, Ari?
Yeah, like you said, case deflection is the number one thing. I mean, we have the knowledge base set up so that when they submit an email question, it says, hey, are these here are 3 articles that kind of seem to talk about what you're asking about. And even when we turn that on or in the early going, we saw the case volume decrease. So it's what you said. People want to solve their own problems if they can.
Awesome, awesome. So, with that, let's talk about, we've talked about a little bit more structured, but, hopefully, some people are very excited about, what Club W is, how you guys interact with your customers. So, you obviously have a lot of experience in this, and you guys deal in a business and in a marketplace that's very immediate, and people need answers immediately, especially when there's a lot of logistical issues going along with delivery and supply. So with that being said, customer service is critical. So can you give these guys, just explain a little bit about what these 3 bullet points mean?
Do unto others, number one, like we've talked about systems and we're focused on technology, and the one thing that people often forget is, if you want your agents to take care of your customers, you really have to take care of them. You want to treat your agents, again, we made that pivot, and making sure that our agents understood that change in our business model was key, because they're going to be the ones that are going to talk to the customers about it. So great people are invaluable, treat them that way. Seeking 1% improvements, we'll always feel this pressure to kind of hit it out of the park and come up with some big revolutionary change or some big solution. Always seek 1% gains and efficiencies. So to go back to that example of the knowledge base, the knowledge base is a great place to start if you don't know where to start. And then once you build your knowledge base, don't forget about it, because, one change to one knowledge base article that you discover needs changing because you get 5 phone calls about it, that's going to save you a ton of time. So those 1% gains are huge, and then making everything actionable. We get these new systems and they're like a great new toy, and you figure, oh, well, I want to add a label for tracking this, and I want to add a field for tracking that. If you can't imagine exactly how you're going to take action on that label, then forget about it. You need to have everything designed with the thought in mind that it has to be something that I can either report on or take an action on, or I'm not going to do it.
Great. Well, thanks, Ari. I think, so what I want to do now is I want to take us to Q&A, but before I do, I know there have been a few questions along the road about, what is Desk? And that's a really great question. I think Ari and I, as we planned this, we didn't want it to seem too commercially. I think I wanted more than anything is to have you hear from an expert that's actually doing this day in and day out. I know throughout the presentation we touched on, but again, let me just tell you, so there's 2 ways to handle customer service for a business. You can either do it manually, which there's never a good answer for that, or you can find a technology solution that enables you to automate a lot of these processes, right? So Desk.com is really an out-of-the-box solution that allows you to manage your customer experience, manage your customer service. And so that doesn't just mean email. It includes a universal inbox where all of your channels come in, from Twitter, from Facebook, phone, chat, email, everything comes into one place. You can very easily organize. You can very easily distribute these cases to certain agents. There's a lot of reporting features on the back end that enable you to tell at a high level, for example, Ari could use these reports to tell, how many bottles of red wine are we selling and how many complaints about that red wine are we getting, right? So a lot of our customers use Insights, which is our analytics tool, to determine what's the next step for their business or product. I know that seems robust, but, in this day and age when there's so many companies competing for market share and there's so many similar products, and because of technology, if you are a technology company or technology-based, it's much easier today for people to copy your idea than it was, back in the days of Henry Ford, when it was all about how many parts did you have and how many people did you have to put those parts together, right? So because of this, the similarities and the very competitive nature of the market today, how you handle your customers is a complete differentiator, because that is your secret sauce. As simple as it sounds to actually provide great customer service, it's not the easiest thing in the world. And you can hear Ari throughout this entire presentation talk about just the various ways that he does things. And I can tell you, every time that I talk to a customer, everybody has their own secret sauce. So Desk is just a way to do that. It's catered for growing businesses because you can literally get it up and running in a matter of hours. Average customer gets it up and running in about 2 days, and you can very, very easily train your agents on it. So for more information, you can go to Desk.com. But, I mean, Ari, just out of curiosity before we open it up, how long did it take you guys to set up Desk?
I mean, we started with that basic idea. So to answer your question, yes, we had it set up in about 2 days. But we started with that basic notion of, okay, well, we don't know where to start because the idea of it's like eating the elephant. Where do you start, one bite at a time? Okay, well, let's figure out how to build our knowledge base, because if we figure out how to build our knowledge base, that'll tell us what the categories of questions are that we're expecting to get. And then when we turn on email, we can say, okay, let's make sure that those product categories match what's in our knowledge base. And so it's just kind of a, you start by building your knowledge base, and that tells you what you need to build out in the other channels, and you go from there. So you can be up and running with the technology in a day. You probably want to be a little more, you don't want to overplan and overanalyze, but, start smart, because the groundwork that you lay is going to be there for a long time.
Great, thanks, Ari. And so with that, we're officially done with the webinar, but I really want to open it up to you. I know there are a few hand raises. I don't know if there are still questions that we maybe answer, but do you guys have any questions? If you do, please go ahead and just type them in either in the chat to me or in the questions box, and we'll be happy to wait here for a few moments to answer any questions you have. Cool, here's one. So Ari, this guy's asking us a really good question. So what are the key metrics that you review on a daily or a weekly, monthly basis to assess how your support team is performing or your support process is performing?
So CSAT, which is something that is a part of where, when a case is marked resolved, the customer that submitted it gets a question, how happy were you with the answer that you received. So CSAT is a part of it because we want the agent to give the right answer. Contact resolution is another. How quickly are we resolving things on the first contact, back and forth. Hold times is another. So we want to balance that out with the CSAT. We have to get good quality answers, but we're never going to rush somebody. I mean, there are kind of different approaches to customer service, and Zappos is famous for having some call where they've been on for 6 hours. At our size, that's not realistic. So phone times are something that we look at, and especially hold times. I mean, hold times are a killer. Nobody wants to spend time on hold. And then we look at the email response time. How quickly is an email getting answered after it comes in? Because, there's no reason that we can't, if we scale properly, that we can't answer an email within a couple hours.
Great, thanks. Any more questions out there? Just give you guys a few moments if they're typing anything in. Here you go. Here's another one. So is the knowledge base fully managed in Desk.com? How do you manage video content within the knowledge base, links, YouTube, Vimeo? So I will answer the generic answer, and feel free to chime in, Ari, like how you manage your knowledge base. So the knowledge base is, basically completely customizable in the sense that you can write articles, and in the Help Center, so let me clarify for the folks on the phone. The knowledge base is the piece of technology that exists within the Desk app, right? And the Help Center is actually the forward-facing, it's like the URL, if you will. So if you go, for example, to help.clubw.com or whatever their specific URL is, that's the Help Center, and that's where you can actually
support.
What's that? Yeah, support. Okay, support. And so you can embed videos, you can include links, and there's a lot you can do. And so the knowledge base on the back end is actually where you not only populate all of your articles on your Help Center, but it also enables your agents to very easily access that same information to answer a question themselves. So why is that important? It's really important because if you have an agent that's answering a question that they're not an expert on, and again, you can't really link up an agent efficiently to answer only the questions that they know very well, right? It's just in the real world, that just doesn't happen. So a knowledge base, they can go in and they can search in that knowledge base just like a customer would. They can find the article that's relevant to that person's question, and with a click of a button, they can really easily just post that article to the question and send off the case. Now, Ari, do you want to talk a little bit about how you guys manage that process?
Yeah, I mean, our trainer is also the person who manages our knowledge base, and she, just is constantly getting feedback from our agents about what needs to be added. Anytime we have a new feature on the site, we make sure that we have a knowledge base that goes along with it. Anytime we've got a special promotion, we make sure that there's a knowledge base that goes along with it, because it's what you talked about. It's deflection. It's if they can find the answer in the support center, they're going to find it there first, and we would rather have them do that, not because we don't want to talk to them, but just because everybody's happier. And then to kind of follow up on what you said, this idea of having specialists, I'll second that. Yes, we have retention specialists because that's kind of a different question for us, but thinking that you can have people that specialize in one area of product knowledge is just not realistic. You can't hold metrics accountable that way in terms of hold time, and it just doesn't work. Trust me, we tried it, and it didn't work.
Great, thank you so much. So another good question here. So we talked a lot about, not only your customers being the people that subscribe to your product, but also, the growers and the wine producers that you work with. And so the question here is do you use Desk to manage those relationships as well in any capacity?
We will start to use them. We will start to use Desk to manage the relationship with restaurants, but the grower relationships are a little more. It's a little bit more of an art form. I mean, it's kind of what I talked about, why people that are great winemakers want to work with us, because they really want to focus on their wine. And so they're pretty heads down, and they don't want to pick up the phone and call into a support center. They want to pick up the phone and call our chief wine officer and talk about what's going on with their particular project or offering. So when we expand to restaurants, we will be working with that directly through Desk. And it's conceivable that at some point we will have the product team in here, but for right now, most of those relationships are very, very, they're very touch sensitive. So they want to talk to our chief wine officer, but it's not inconceivable that we'll do it at some point.
Cool, thanks for that. And I will add too, so we have a customer, Mantri, which is also a subscription service that, for those of you that don't know, Mantri is based in San Francisco, and they basically partner with chefs to build these gourmet meals that they deliver to your doorstep in less than an hour. And so, similar to what Ari said, there's a lot of nuances to how you want to deal with your partners, especially, wine is a very, very specific industry. Mantri actually uses Desk.com to coordinate their deliveries as well as with their drivers and their chefs, so it becomes more of an operations tool as well as a customer service channel for them. So again, it's all about how people like to be communicated with, and I think the best answer, and to go off of what Ari said, is that you need to find what works best for your partners and meet them on their grounds. And I mean, that's why a tool like Desk is so important, because if somebody is posting on your Facebook page, they don't want you to email them back. If somebody is trying to chat you, they don't want you to ask for their telephone number so you can call them back. Customers today want to be met where they're at. And so if that means somebody like a wine grower wants to speak to your chief wine producer and only wants to speak to that person in person or on the phone, then that's what you do. And so you kind of have to facilitate that, but the diversity with the technology solutions is that, generally speaking, from a customer-facing perspective, there's only going to be a limited number of channels that people want to reach out, and this gives you that easy way to reach back out to them. So hopefully that will answer that question. So how did you? Okay, so there's a question here. Is how do you integrate Desk to existing infrastructure? And if you can clarify this, Tom, please do. But I'll clarify what I think this means. Is that Desk is a product that came in, you instituted on your team. Can you talk about, again, you were just using email before, but can you talk about how this integrates with maybe some of your other processes or other technologies, or speak a little bit more to that, Ari?
Yeah, so Desk has a pretty robust API, and we use that API to push information back and forth. We have a homegrown CRM system because we're subscription-based and because wine is pretty specific. So, we're pushing some information up into Desk that will, when the ticket comes in, when somebody reaches out to us, we can look in their customer record in Desk, and from our CRM system, we'll know how many orders they've received. And how many orders they've received from us is really important because that tells us how familiar they are, and that will help us gauge, like that question about somebody being unhappy with a bottle. If somebody is unhappy with the bottle and it's their sixth shipment, they're pretty familiar with the satisfaction guarantee, and so we might answer them one way. If somebody is brand new, might not know at all, so we'll answer them in a different way. But we use the API to integrate that, and then the other way that we integrate with systems is through these third-party vendors, like we're talking about TalkDesk or SnapEngage. There's an app marketplace for Desk, and you can pick up the tools that you need to add on or to snap onto Desk to make it what you want.
Great, thank you. And then, so there's I think we have, if there's any more questions, please let us know. We're down to a few more minutes here, guys, but there's an individual asking, can we see a sample of the knowledge base? And so I think the best thing for anyone that wants to see more about what Desk looks like or how it functions is to sign up for a free trial. You can sign up, basic information. You don't need to put your credit card in. It's a 14-day free trial. That'll give you enough time to play in there. And again, because it's so easy to use and so easy to set up, that's going to be more than enough time to understand the capabilities of the product. Or if that's too much right now, simply go to support.desk.com, type in knowledge base, and there's going to be some screenshots and some more explanation as to what the knowledge base is. So, final question here, and this will be the final question, Ari. So you spoke about a CRM solution. So can you talk about what that CRM solution is, or if it's just kind of something you guys baked internally?
It's something we made internally. I mean, obviously, you can integrate with Salesforce, and we know that because, when we were looking at launching, with the restaurant initiative, we are at least considering using Salesforce as our CRM. But our CRM is something that we built internally, so it's a system that is designed to work with subscription model and with reships and all kinds of issues that are really specific. Alcohol is a highly regulated space, and the delivery of alcohol is highly regulated, so there wasn't a solution off the shelf that we felt could meet our needs as well as a system that we could build when we first started.
Cool, thank you. So that concludes the session. I want to tell you guys on the phone, again, if you're interested to learn more about Desk, go to Desk.com. If you want to learn more about, Ari's amazing company and what they do, please go to clubw.com for more information. And again, a link to this recording will be sent out after this session so that you guys all have this. And again, Ari, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. It was awesome speaking to you. I think you're in a very interesting space, and I really look forward to the continued success of your company.
Thank you very much. We do too. We're excited.
Great. Well, take care, and take care, Ari.
Okay. Take care, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.